Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. David Stewart made a sideways reference to my, let's call it, seniority in this particular debate. And indeed, I am looking round the only member, apart from perhaps someone in front of me, who might remember rationing. Indeed, I was 6 years old.
The ground is gradually opening up under your feet, Mr. Stevenson.
When I wrote this, someone else was in the chair, of course. But anyway, the bottom line is I was 6 when sugar rationing ended. So therefore, as a youngster, my palate was not used to having sweet things. And I think there's a very important point in that sort of rather amusing comment I make, that how we eat in the very, very early days of our life will influence our preferences throughout our life. I've survived to the point where my blood pressure is 120/60, my heart rate's 72, and my respiration is running at about 20. And more critically, I've been sworn into this Parliament on 5 occasions, and on each occasion I've worn the same suit. However, now for the bad news. I'm 30% heavier than I was when I got married nearly 50 years ago. So it's not all good news. It's merely not as bad as it might be. I'm afraid of that weight gain, of course. I must say probably most of it is fat rather than muscle. Brian Whittle, the most accomplished athlete in our number this afternoon, would no doubt agree. Of course, muscle weighs more than fat, so perhaps there's a modest advantage. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about the psychology of being overweight. We had a comment about the debate we'll have tomorrow on eating disorders. And of course, they come both to cause people to be underweight and to cause people to be overweight. And being in possession of an eating disorder is linked to stress, it's linked to low self-esteem, it might even be linked to some degree of mental ill health. Some of the language used does not help. And we've used the word junk food quite frequently in this debate. And I think when we suggest to people that they're eating junk food, we demean them, we disincentivize, we make them feel bad about themselves, because the word junk isn't a nice word. I don't think it's the kind of word that we should use too much. We've heard a little bit about labelling from Ash Denham, for example. I think we need very vigorous rules. It's sometimes really quite difficult. I pick things up and I look how many calories, and then in tiny, tiny print it says that's for half the content of this packet, and it is in tiny print. Or in some cases even it's a fifth of the packet. I want to see in 20-point print on the front of everything that's pre-packaged how many calories are in the packet. Then I can start to do meaningful estimation of what's going on. Now, I think, too, that we talked about the outdoors and exercise. It's also worth saying that we can extend the eating habits of the young by just walking around. There's hedgerow food. We normally pick enough brambles that we'll do it for most of the year. They go in the freezer. There's been a huge crop of wild raspberries in our area. There's mushrooms out there. When I want something sweet when I'm in the country, I pick up a clover flower and just stick it in my mouth and suck it. And isn't that just lovely? There's seaweed not far away, tree resin. And nettles are an excellent thing to add to things like mince and stews and so on and so forth. That, of course, when they're cooked, have no adverse effect whatsoever on one's palate. We've talked a bit about salt. Salt is, of course, sodium chloride. Well, of course, it's possible to buy formulations of salt that have potassium chloride, which are much less harmful to the metabolism, while giving exactly the same flavour benefits. Now, we've had a little bit about alcohol. I must confess to you here and now, I reckon alcohol is probably something that is equivalent to a meal a week for me. And for a lot of us, it might be something similar. Think of it in those terms, and you think of the benefits. In my lifetime, Presiding Officer, and I think this goes to the heart of it, we started at the beginning of my life eating to live. Now, alas, too many of us are living to eat.